Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I'm John McCabe, co-host of the Channel Surfers, and I'm joined as always by my really good friend and co-host Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
John, I'm doing fantastic.
I love your
Can't
shirt, and I love the
I,
story behind the shirt. And maybe give everybody a quick story on that shirt because we can't escape it.
so this is vintage. So for our special guest today, I went deep into the vault of Hawaiian shirts. I have had this Hawaiian shirt since I believe 1984. And the quick story behind it is a good friend of mine. We had a luau that we were going to. So we stopped at this incredible store at the time called Kmart. And I think it cost me like $9, $10.
Love
But
it.
yeah, haven't looked back. I actually ended up buying two. And then
Mhm.
my kids, when they were in college, they took them. In fact, the red one I can't find. I'll have to find a picture of it. The red one was like totally classic. But
Are you,
anyway,
are
I
you
digress.
gonna like plug Tide or something, or just the perseverance of polyethylene or whatever that thing's made of?
It is, I'll tell you what, it's super soft. It's very supple. It breathes. I mean, I'm going to tell you, Rob, they don't make these like this anymore for good reason.
So we have a
I
special
think
guest today, and he's a good friend of yours, Jeff. Why don't you do an introduction so we could start talking to this very interesting person?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I already kind of just said I dug this up for the fact that I have a really good friend. I've known Rob, Jesus, probably 15 years, Rob, going back maybe six,
easy.
maybe even 16. I had the dubious honor of meeting Rob while we worked at EMC,
Mhm.
and we were both in the channel but doing different things. I was a partner manager, and I'll let you kind of get into some of that background.
Sure.
But what I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to have Rob on because not only has Rob been in the channel for as long as I can remember, he's also leading the channel at a company today. And the company happens to do some things with AI, which I just found incredibly fascinating. And I'll let you kind of say it's Lizer, right? Lizer
Yeah,
AI.
it's Lizer. That's right.
So
Lizer.ai. Just to see how many plugs I can make during this 30 minutes or so.
Welcome,
It's
well,
Rob Cohen. Rob, why don't you give us a little background on yourself and talk about what you're doing?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well, we only have 30 minutes, so I won't give you the long version. But I started my tech career off on Wall Street, believe it or not. And I was working at an old firm called Shearson Lehman Brothers, working in what they used to call EDP audit. So basically, all the new software that would come into the organization or things they built before they released it, I would have to go and make sure the thing is pretty solid before it could, get sign off. And
wow.
that was really fascinating and interesting. These are days when, if I wanted to see my boss, I had to go down to the pub, down to the bar downstairs, because that's where he was every afternoon.
Liquid
But
lunch.
yeah, those days
Working.
are long gone. So, but I really fell in love with tech and with software. So I moved up to Boston. So I was in New York. My family's in Connecticut, and so it was either at that time Boston or San Francisco. And I moved up to Boston, and I got involved in the first of probably 4 or 5 different software companies. Everything from and my role initially, I was a systems engineer. I was a sales engineer,
Hmm.
and my first product that I sold was an interest rate and currency swap trading system. So
Wow.
that was pretty fun. That was fun.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I went through startups. I started my own company that failed. We were trying to do Apple Pay in 2000. It was a
Hmm.
little before its time. There weren't even iPhones then. And then companies that have gone public and, host of things. And then in about 2006, I joined EMC and I was there for about a year. So I was in lots of different lots of different jobs in software, selling, product management, product marketing. And then I moved into partnerships
Hmm.
and business development and then partnerships at EMC, where I was working on the red-haired stepchild called Documentum, which is a content
Oh,
management system.
that's our home. That's
And
where we all were.
yeah, so I was building the partner ecosystem there. And I don't really call that channel
Hmm.
until I realized that Documentum was there to fund investments that EMC was making. And even though they were very profitable, the profits never came back into Documentum. So, and then EMC, as you probably know, is a very sales-driven company.
Yes.
And so here I was, I had this ecosystem that was building all these things on top of Documentum, but we weren't benefiting from it at all, really. I mean, we were, because they were pulling the platform, but we didn't get anything out of the real ecosystem. And at EMC, if you're not generating revenue, you are at risk. And so I actually created a resale program for our partners so that EMC sellers could resell our partners' products with Documentum. And I think that kind of saved the ecosystem, because it kept dwindling and the number of people we had kept dwindling. And finally, we were generating revenue. The first year, I think I generated about $10 million in revenue, which was pretty fun. But this thing was going on, this thing called cloud. And so, Pivotal was part of the investments at EMC. And I decided I wanted to get out of there because it had almost been a decade, and that was freaking me out that I was at some place for a decade. And so I went, I did a short stint with an old friend of mine named Bernie Greifenator, who was the founder of Dynatrace. And then that was just a short-term project, and I realized a lot about what I didn't know, and ended up deciding that I wanted to go work at AWS. And spent 7 years at AWS, all as a partner development manager for SIs. So I broke a bunch of glass there. In fact, we were talking earlier that one of the people that you interviewed, Michelle Etherton, and
good friend of the show, good friend of ours. Yep.
So she and I did a really cool deal, our first reseller deal at AWS. I did the first SI deal at AWS. I did a couple of other SI deals, and one of which was with this company called LTI. They during the time I was managing them, they merged with Mindtree. But when I first started working with them, they had just bought an SI, an AWS focused SI in India, called Power Up Cloud, and the founder of that became the guy who was running the AWS business for them, and he and I became very close. And as we grew their business from about $70 million to over $200 million in 3 years. And so it was really successful. And he, after his handcuffs came off, he went off and started doing a few different things and ended up starting Lizer, and, called him up and said, "Hey, what do you think? Can you afford me?" And he said, "Well, no, but you can come over because I think you'd have a lot of fun." And I did, and I am. And so I came over to run strategic alliances and get back into the software business. So for me, it really was like perfect, because I had built these new skills that were really important for companies today to be able to leverage scale partners, and at the same time get involved in a startup. So
that's great. Yeah, and I think you landed in the right place. This is, Jeff and I, wax nostalgic over AI and how it's, taken over and how it can help our jobs. And I think you're in the right place. And, and Michelle's at a company called Liminal. They do a little bit of similar type of cybersecurity focus on chatbots, right? Making chatbots secure. But yeah, very interesting background. And Rob, we were all at Documentum. I was at Documentum. Jeff was my channel manager. That's how we got to meet. We've been friends and working together for 15 years now. So let's just kind of switch gears a little bit. And, your background is amazing. And you kind of talked about how you got into channel and why, but what are some of the challenges that you've learned along the way and the lessons learned? So for people that are listening to this who might be new to channel, trying to understand how to get in and be successful like you, what are some of the challenges and lessons learned that you've had over the years?
It's a really interesting thing to do. So there's a couple of kinds of channel. There's sort of the Cosell channel, which I spent a lot of my time in. And then there's like what I'll call the reseller and distribution channel.
Right.
And they both have, I think, some different challenges. The Cosell channel someone once asked me, well, why do you do this? And I said, well, honestly, it's the challenge. It's really hard. And I said, what do you mean? And I said, well, most companies that I know, when you ask them how their sales teams are doing, they say, I'm ready to pull my hair out. My sales guys aren't selling what I want them to sell. They are taking the easiest path. They're impossible. I can't get them to do what I want them to do. And you know what? They have all the incentives that they can use, the levers to pull to make their sellers do what they want them to do. And so here I am in a partner organization that has no influence on their comp base, sort of, no levers that I can pull. And all I have to do have on my side is the value of my product. And then I have to figure out not how do I sell my product to my customer, but how do I sell my product to a seller who then has to sell it to my customer.
Wow.
And that's a huge challenge. And so I think my whole career I've been working as an in-between guy, whether it's in between IT and business, or it's between developers and sellers, or now partners. And so I really love the challenge of kind of crafting those messages and figuring out what's going to create some acceleration and then making it happen. That's kind of what I get off on, I'd say. So that's kind of why I got into the channel. And then I think the other challenges are pretty interesting. So when you're looking at resellers, then resellers they're selling something else always. They're selling MSP, they're selling, a series of service, like post-sale services is probably where they really make their money, or they're selling bodies. They're putting bodies in their body shop, and they're putting people in. And so there, sometimes it's not only getting the sellers to have some idea of what you do, because they've probably got a portfolio of products that's longer than your arm. And so how do you differentiate what you do with what they're doing and figure out why should they spend time on your product? That's another thing.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes what I've had happen a couple of times is if I'm in a product like I'm in now, which is an AI product, which is a great door opener for just about any seller, then I sometimes have to justify to their leadership why they're spending time on my product. And so understanding the business models and how the drag and the pull through and all that happens, or how this turns into recurring revenue for a partner, or, whatever, a number of different models that I'm sure you guys see and talk about on the channel here. That's really ends up being a significant part of what I think I do pretty well in figuring that out and getting people to understand that partnering is better than not partnering.
No, that totally makes sense. Any just I was going to say, I always look for something fun, right? Any kind of a fun partner story where you were trying to do this and maybe things went sideways, but it ended up working out, or anything like that. I mean, and again, just trying to tie it back to the lessons and challenges that you had.
Oh no, all my stuff is smooth as silk, man. There are no hiccups ever on any of the roads I'm on. So that's a good question. Let me see if I can think about. I will say that one of the things that is particularly important in channel is being as transparent as you can. And sometimes there's kind of a line inside your company about what you should and shouldn't talk to people about. And so, but in order for the partnership to work, you have to give a little in order to earn trust, and in order to get people to, for the relationship to work. Because if the relationship isn't there, there's always crap in partnerships. Until you get to a point where you're working with a lot of scale, every deal is a snowflake, and every deal's got some crap to it, and you got to iron something out along the way. So if you don't have the relationship, then it's really becomes super frustrating, because you don't feel like your partner's hearing you and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important to have that kind of a relationship. So there was a partner at EMC that was in the OCR business. And
boy, that brings back memories. OCR. Oof.
Yeah. You might know these guys. They've been around. They're still around. And this is the best part of the story is that I remember talking with them and helping them build their partnership with EMC. And I was just doing my job. At the time, I probably had 30 partners. And so, that's one day a month that you could spend with them.
Yeah.
And so evidently there were some things that I had done in terms of practices and stuff they executed on and they worked. Lo and behold, it wasn't just complete bullshit.
Magic.
And so it was, and so they became, we became kind of friends. And then not too long ago, our paths crossed again, and they were reminding me about how much I improved their business, helped them and grow their business and improve their business.
That's awesome.
And I feel like, being honest and being forthright with somebody and helping them, especially understanding the difficulty of how partnering works, that pays off in spades, right? Because they learn to trust you. And if they trust you, there's always this point where you have an issue with a partner. And the sooner you get to the point where you're both trying to solve it instead of blaming each other, right? It starts off with, oh, your product sucks. I was like, oh no, your salesperson sucks. And then and then finally, when we get into what the customer actually wants and we start talking about it, then we start working on on solving the problem. Like that's a really big deal. That's a super turning point that I always look for. And that's what I think I try to do with my partners. A lot of times my partners will, introduce me to people in the company, and they'll all think I work for the company because I get to know them pretty well, and I know I know where a lot of the tough challenges are, and that's super gratifying for me whenever my partners think I work for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it comes back to that.
You're near bound. You're like living the near bound methodologies, and you probably didn't even know it. Are you familiar with Near Bound and the Jared Fuller book?
No,
it's amazing.
Yeah, so I think it was episode 6.
Is he plagiarizing me?
No. And also, Jeff and I are reading another great book called The Go-Giver, and a lot of what you're saying is kind of based on the whole premise of that book, which is an amazing book. But I love your insight. You really validate what we are talking about. Like everything you said is probably been covered in several different shows, and Jeff and I lived that for the past 15 years. Working in channel. So I really appreciate you you validating that for us. So, and I think that story was amazing. I probably do know that OCR partner and probably work with them a couple times.
It's not Kofax.
I'm sorry. Was that?
It's not Kofax.
No.
I said it's not Kofax.
It's the other one.
Kofax. God, these names are bringing back memories. So.
Before you transition, I just wanted to kind of quantify something. So and by the way, you're spot on. John is spot on. It's validating, John, to hear Rob, your story and the evolution of it, because when John mentioned Nearbound, and I'm just two things. One, when John told me about the book almost 2 years ago and I read it, I think I started texting him like, I hate you, like Jesus, blah, 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 like some other choice words, because I realized I was doing he wrote this book, but I realized I was doing like 90% of the things he talked about. I just didn't realize it was a whole process and methodology. But you made me think of something, and that is, one of the takeaways when you're a good channel manager, you're a bit of a marriage counselor kind of therapist. Because you're constantly massaging people's, the how things were said or what's going on or how it's supposed to get done. And you've got to make sure that, things weren't misconstrued or whatever. And when you just described that, I was like, wow, you're kind of like a therapist to help kind of get that process moving so that everybody's egos are kept in check and we go win the business. So it's a win-win-win situation. But anyway,
it's also funny, as a father, I also, when my kids have an issue, I constantly will say to them, well, what's the other side of that?
Yeah.
Or what was they're bitching about the teacher. Well, what was the teacher trying to say? What were they doing? What's their point? And I always would say, there's two sides to every story. And, until you understand both sides, you're really never going to get anywhere. And that's exactly what my job is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
No, absolutely.
So, Rob, we've started this series where we're talking to, channel contributors like yourself in the trenches. We love to hear your take on the state of the channel today. Like, what are the current trends and challenges you see in trying to build a partner ecosystem? And I know you just went over to Lysol and are building that from scratch, and you're starting over again, and it sounds like you're invigorated because of that. But what are you seeing as like trends in channel right now?
It's an interesting question. Usually I get asked, how do you see AI impacting things, right? And so I was sort of trying to think
your
about
answer.
that.
That's fine. We like hearing that, right?
I mean, I do think that the big vision for agents is that there's going to be agent to agent communication, and so a lot of B2B stuff is going to be automated, and I think that's going to have a pretty significant impact on the channel. Now, what I will say is if we look at different parts of the channel, I think that agents are the best thing that could ever happen to the MSP business. Because when agents are built, they are constantly iterated, right? So it is a malleable thing without breaking stuff. You change a prompt and you move things along, or you change the data that you're working with, you upgrade a model. All these things it's not an 8-month process to get a new version of what's happening. And but I think there's going to be a two-party. I think there's going to be a class system where you've got people who are defining what the agent should do, the agent architects, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of infrastructure guys or gals or agents that are going to be worried about the data and the accuracy of the workflows and all of that stuff that is going to make or break one of these systems. And that's going to change a lot. And so I think the MSP business, when we were all at Documentum, the MSP business was like almost cyclical. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, when I get a new machine in, then I got a bunch of hard work to do for a while. And then in about 6 months, it might calm down and I don't have to worry about that again for another 5 years. And so, they got the whole donut, criticisms. And then cloud came along, right? And now cloud is pretty dynamic, but it's still, if it's not implemented correctly, it could still just be automation of the same problem. And MSPs started to be more than just call centers and password resetters. All of a sudden they had to start thinking about, how things are architected and is it working properly, and what's the latency when I've got a global environment, and all these things that now in the databases were changing a lot. Things were moving all the time. There was lots of migration, and a lot of that had to be maintained. And once you finished a migration, you and I both know there's a whole bunch of stuff that was just kind of plopped over, and you're going to have to figure it out, and then you're going to have to maintain it. So the pace of that was significantly higher, faster than the old pace. And I think the pace with agents is going to be even faster, near real time. So the guys who figure out how to do MSP with agents are going to be in well, it's not going to be fun. I mean, I think it'll be fun, but it's not going to be easy, but it's got a big potential for automation and for profit if they do a good job with it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that. So John and I just had a great podcast with Jay McBain, and you know, first of all, the convergence of AI and the market. One of the things that he mentioned was the fact that, you know, first of all, it's going to be $1 trillion industry, right, upwards, and that the speed that it's moving, it's going to do what took 50 years of the technology industry to get to where it is at 5.3 trillion. It's going to be 10 years and there'll be a $6 trillion AI industry that's wrapped around this. And one of the things that he said, and I only know this because I've had to listen to it a handful of times doing the video editing, but there's about 341,000 MSP based companies in the world.
Wow.
And that includes Accenture, at least. And I'm just paraphrasing what Jay said. The average employees out of that 341,000 is 8. Yeah. And he said, think about this. You have organizations, MSPs and MSSPs that are spinning up that you're going to have a 3 to 5 person operation that's going to run like it's 50 to 60 because of what you just said, because of the AI and the aging capability to do a lot of the tasks and things that you need to do so that you can start to provide more service and value to more customers. So I thought that was really poignant what you said.
I think it's interesting. It's really, I think there is a leapfrogging opportunity for smaller companies to do really good jobs locally for their customer, even internationally or whatever. For that reason, is because they can automate a lot more than if they specialize. They can automate a ton, and I think that does represent an opportunity for people to be way more productive in an MSP environment than they are today.
So, if I can, and I'll just kind of jump in, I want to take that and kind of transition. So 2 things. One, how are you working with AI today within the concepts and gosh, my words are messed up today, but how are you working with AI today within your team, right? And using and leveraging AI, and then you can kind of transition, because I know we want to talk a little bit about the company and the agent stuff that you guys are doing, but what, how are you leveraging the technology and the speed at which things are happening?
Yeah. So I think, like everybody else, I'm going to say not enough, but quite a bit. So I'll give you an example. There's one of the models is called Perplexity. I don't know if you guys know that one.
Oh, it's very familiar.
Deep research. Yeah. So it's great. And I was fortunate enough to be in a program that they had where I got to listen to a bunch of guys and learn a bunch about it. And they just came out with a browser called Comet. Right. And so today, right now, I just was thinking I would show you that I had it summarize today's emails for me and create a set of actions coming out of the emails just to kind of keep me up to speed on what's happening so that I can spend time doing other things. Right. And one of the other things that I was doing was working with our product and getting to understand our product. So I'll just show you this as quickly, because you guys said I could pitch it.
Sure.
And, wait, is that me? No, that's my camera. Here's this. I'm so technical.
Now the podcast listeners won't see this. The YouTube viewers will see it.
This is one of those things where, if you see how much I fumble here, and then you can see how easy it is to actually use our product. So this is the product. It's our studio, and I'm using it in Comet for the first time, which is a demo mistake, but we'll do it anyway. So you'll see that I've got 16 agents that I've written. I've got a knowledge base, and I've got 3 different tools. So what does that mean? So typically an agent is going to be the core of a workflow, and it could be a series of agents that work together, and they're going to work with LLMs, and they're going to work with the company's private data, and together they're going to solve some problems. And so in order to do that, you build the agents to do a bunch of the heavy lifting and work. You have knowledge bases, and they could be graphs or semantic layers, or they could be actual databases that have the company's data. And so the agents will leverage the company's data while interacting with LLMs and create a fantastic outcome. And then that outcome might use some tools to deliver it. So I'll give you an example. If I look at the tools, right? So we have things like Gmail, Notion, we have Perplexity, Twitter, Calendly. So if you wanted to do something and then drop the output in Slack, you could do that. If you wanted to create a Twitter post, you could do that. If you want to send an email in Outlook, you want to create a YouTube video, whatever tools you use in your normal life, you can connect them into agents, and then they become available for you to become more efficient. We also have data connectors. And so here you can get into things like Redshift or a Postgres database, MySQL, BigQuery, all these things that you've got investments in. So you've got a lot of data that's stored. You also have a lot of structure around that data that makes it accessible. And so Neo4j, for example, is a graph database. And then so we can connect into that. And when you connect into something like Redshift, what you're going to do is give your credentials to the agent system. And so they can log in as you and then take advantage of whatever you've been. You basically bring your own model. So you're leveraging the costs, leveraging the investment that you've made in existing infrastructure here. And then these are the models. So we use OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Grok, and also we can get to Amazon Bedrock, where you could, again, bring your own tool, bring your own model. And when you bring your own model, you put your keys in and then it becomes available. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we go to the agents and I create an agent, oh, great.
Oh boy,
you've exceeded it. No, this is. I tell you what, it's interesting because we briefly had this come up in at least 2 previous podcasts, talking about how do you start to implement this, right? How do you start leveraging this? And I was telling John, I've been playing around where I was doing the very same thing, having it look at my emails. It's complicated, but it's not. If that makes sense. It's once you start to do it, it's fairly intuitive is what I've started figuring out.
So there's a lot of RPA out there, a lot of automation that's out there, like make.com and Zapier and N8N and these things, right? So we had some customers where we went and they'd be really proud of this like 50 node N8N thing. And all I could think about is some of the old like, global planning models that were on Excel, and if one thing broke, the whole damn thing is all screwed up. And so I sort of think of those RPAs as kind of the Excel of automation. And we took that 50 node N8N and we made 2 agents that did the same thing. So it's just the amount of reasoning, the amount of variety of what these agents can do is significant. So it really creates a tremendous opportunity. Now, what we've done is we've seen a lot of people who also are like, well, wait a minute, how do I do this? And so we are in the process of creating what we call blueprints. And I'm going to show you like one of these. So one of these is a blog writing. There's a LinkedIn post generator. There's a few others, an ebook generator. But these could also, and they will be, things like claims processing systems and cross-border transactions, healthcare evaluations. We have a company that is one of the largest hospital networks in Scandinavia. Our customer is the head of cardiology, and her problem is that they don't have enough cardiologists to man all the emergency rooms in the network all the time, 24/7. And so if someone comes into an emergency room with a cardiac issue, it has to be dealt with very quickly. And so we're working with them to create an agent, a diagnostic agent for emergency rooms that would allow them to identify cardiac patients quickly and then get the right care for them. Phenomenal. But
yeah. Well, you know, I was even thinking, like, even with healthcare, right? I see this bureaucracy and all this crap that goes on, like, you know, it's life cycle management. One of the things, right, with Documentum, right? It's all about how do you manage the life cycle, whether it's insurance, you know, or it's healthcare, things that you could
coding,
actually,
all those things.
yeah.
No, this is gonna completely change that
Damn.
over time. It's cool. So I think what I did is, if you pick up one of these, first of all, it tells you what the blueprint does, right? So this one is for LinkedIn generation. So it creates high impact LinkedIn posts. You enter your LinkedIn post topic, which I'm going to do.
We need more of that.
Right? You have your system automatically fetches information, creates an initial draft, right? It makes sure that it's relevant. It looks at the output and says, is this good? If not, it goes back and does it again.
Gotcha.
It has a polishing agent, which is really more about making sure you have the right tone and tenor and you're making the right message and you got the right amount of wittiness or whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
And then finally you're ready and it creates the LinkedIn post with enhancements. So someone looks at this and they say, hey, I really love this. I just want to take this and I'm going to clone it into my, this should have clone right here, into my Lizer account. And so here's this LinkedIn post generator, or actually, let me just go back because I'm not sure you really got the kind of cool visuals here. But if I look at this and I get past this, this shows you
the flow.
So like, here's the orchestrator, and then the orchestra, and then
wow,
get rid of this. I don't need Calendly, and I don't need.
So Rob, hey man, I don't mean to cut your demo short.
Yeah.
First of all, this is fascinating, but we're gonna take your information and we'll put it at the end because I do want, if somebody's interested, seriously. I mean, we're, first of all, John, right? We're well over 100 followers now, so expect to be inundated with people wanting this. I'm just saying.
I can get you to 102.
There you go.
Hey, so we'll take it. Yeah, it's better than the one that used to, you know, listen when we started, you know. But no, we take all the listeners and followers we can get. We really appreciate that. But yeah, I think, Rob, your insight and your story was amazing. I think at some point we want to bring some of the field managers that we've interviewed back for like a roundtable discussion, and we'll keep you in mind for that. I think you have a lot of knowledge and worldly experience that would lend well to the roundtable. So, but we want to thank you today for everything you've contributed. Maybe you want to just give a quick email address, so if anybody listening wants to reach out to you, they can reach out to you.
Sure. It's pretty easy. It's rob@lyzr.ai, LYZR.ai. That's my email.
One. Nice and easy.
And John, if we could,
startup, because you got you got your name as the email. I love that. I love when I have my name.
Early days.
Which is rare.
That's a startup thing.
Just your first name.
So
I love that.
One last question, though, as we close out, because I want to make sure, and I'll put the stuff at the end in the video, just so people could see it, and we'll make sure we post it when we do post it with your contact info and tag you. But what would be, and I was going to ask the question, like, what would be some advice you would give to somebody getting in the channel? But actually, what would be your advice to people that are in the channel and have been in the channel for, say, I don't know, anywhere 5+ years, 6 years? Like, what would you say to them today that they need to do to be better and be better at their job or be better at the position?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think everybody has to start to figure out is, how do they become more efficient? Because the one thing that we know is that the pace of play is gonna enhance. Like, it's gonna be faster. Everything's gonna be faster. And that means that if you're not organized and you're not as automated as you can be, you're going to be really stressful. And if you're like me, the things that really give me the most stress are the mundane things that I kind of hate doing. But that's where this technology adds some value. So I would suggest that anybody who's in the channel, they're either going to be channeling things that are AI oriented, or they're going to be channeling things into organizations that are AI oriented. So become literate. Know what you're talking about. Understand some of the big business challenges that people are solving with agents. And then what are some of the challenges that agents bring? Because it's not, it's not a complete panacea. And so that educate yourself, understand what is going on, and then start getting, and then be bold, be creative, do things, interact with people in a much more personal way. And using this technology will allow you to spend time to really understand what you're going to do, plot your strategy, execute. Yep. And I think you'll stand out. You'll be more successful.
Yeah. Well, Rob, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being a guest on our show today. And, it's the old EMC alumni show here today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I don't know if you guys ever came across this guy named Nima Bailey. I think he's at NVIDIA now, but he used to be at Google, and he just posted something with like a Google reunion within NVIDIA. I thought that was funny. So here we have our EMC reunion.
The band getting back together. Yeah.
Love it.
But yeah, so thank you again. Jeff, thank you as well for co-hosting. It's always a pleasure to do the show with you. For those of you listening, you could find the Channel Surfers on almost all the podcasting services that are out there. We do have a website. It's www.channelsurfers.com. We are on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn page. We post every new episode and give you a summary of the episode. And we'll do that for Rob, and we'll put, Liza information in there for you to reference. If you want to reach out to either Jeff or myself, I'm John at channelsurfers.com. He's Jeff at channelsurfers.com. Our favorite kind of email is short and easy to remember.
Yes.
But until the next show, thank you all for listening. And Rob, again, appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. I look forward to seeing what you guys do next and hopefully participating again.
Awesome, man.
You got it.
Thank you, Rob.
Spread the word to your friends. Thanks.
Thank you.